Did Lockhart wipe Quirrell's memory? Hey, brother! Boy, howdy, you guys know how much we love us some Gilderoy Lockhart here at SuperCarlinBrothers. But just here recently in our podcast, Through the Gryffindor, we were running through his many texts when a thought occurred to us. Lockhart is said to have taken all of his stories from other far more capable wizards, which means that while Gilderoy himself is of course a fraud, they did still happen somewhere to begin with. Lockhart would just famously track down the real hero of the story, wipe their own memory, and take the story as his own, using his golden locks and flair for business to popularize the acts of heroism. One big question, though, that we are left with is whether or not we've ever met any of the actual heroes from the tales that Lockhart has spun. Like, they just simply don't remember that they're the subject of his stories because they don't remember it. And I actually think there is one amazing candidate, and he happens to be one of the very first people Harry meets upon entering the wizarding world.
Poor stuttering Professor Quirrell.
Yeah, guys, I think there is a genuine possibility that Quirrell is one of Lockhart's victims, and his fame has been stolen from him. Today, we explain. Okay, so let's do a little recap on old Lockhart, who inexplicably blabs his entire strategy to both Ron and Harry in such a villainous monologue kind of way. So, you've just been taking credit for what a load of other people have done, said Harry incredulously. Harry, said Lockhart, shaking his head impatiently. It's not nearly as simple as that. There was work involved. I had to track these people down, ask them exactly how they managed to do what they did. Then I had to put a memory charm on them so they wouldn't remember doing it. If there's one thing I pride myself on, it's my memory charms. No, it's been a lot of work, Harry. It's not all book signings and publicity photos, you know. You want fame, you have to be prepared for a long, hard slog. He has truly convinced himself that he deserves to be famous. I mean, I guess as far as he's concerned, it doesn't really matter that he just told Harry and Ron how he did it because he's about to wipe both of their memories, but still, it's a rookie mistake for someone who's clearly a veteran of the game at this point. It kind of makes you wonder if that's like its own bizarre, deep-seated need for credit. Like, he can't actually tell people one of his actual greatest skills because it would totally out him. So he uses opportunities when he's memory wiping to get, like, you know, a little bragging in. But this is basically Lockhart through and through. He has thought himself special ever since he discovered he possessed magical abilities as a child. And we know this because over in the Pottermore archives, we can learn a bit more about his upbringing as the son of a witch mother and muggle father with two sisters, neither of whom possessed magical abilities. Which actually kind of begs its own question of, like, if you're half-blood and non-magical, does that make you a squib or just a muggle? Let me know what you think down below. Anyway though, Gilderoy as a young lad had this distinct ability when compared to his siblings and assumed it made him extraordinary, all up until he arrived at wizard school when he discovered somehow for the first time that all of the other students were also magical, thus making his unique characteristic not all of that unique. This is also probably why his favorite color is lilac. It just wasn't anyone else's favorite color.
Hardly any of you remember that my favorite color is lilac.
That's because hardly anyone's favorite color is lilac. Once he was at school though, like despite the fact that he was no longer actually special just specifically for being magic, it didn't really slow him down at all either. He like carved his name across the entire Quidditch pitch and like projected an image of his own face into the sky. But even after all of his antics at school, the other professors were surprised that Dumbledore would hire him back to work there despite his heroics, since they all just remembered him being super obnoxious. Dumbledore, of course, though, had other plans. He actually knew two of the wizards from whom Lockhart had stolen memories and thought he might be among the only people on the planet who knew what Lockhart was actually up to. But my question is, who were these two wizards that Dumbledore knew? I mean, it's no surprise that if they were indeed that heroic, Dumbledore would have known them, but we get precious little information about them. My first thought actually was that it could have been Lupin being the hero of Wanderings with Werewolves, but I don't think so. No one wants to read about some ugly old Armenian warlock, even if he did save a village from werewolves. He looked dreadful on the front cover, no dress sense at all. I mean, I'm sure Lockhart would describe Lupin as also having no dress sense at all, but he's also not Armenian, so no luck there. And while I'd love to give you a guess as to who it might be, this guy is literally the only Armenian witch or wizard mentioned in the entire series, so no luck on that one. That being said, we do think we have a lead on who Lockhart stole this story from, but first we need to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, MeUndies. I mean, you guys just know that Lockhart wore MeUndies, right? Like, the man may not be like a worthwhile wizard, but he certainly does have dress sense. But beyond looking incredible, which MeUndies totally do, I go for the adventurous prince 11 out of 10 times when given the option, thank me later. MeUndies are also quite functional as well, complete with fancy underwear technology. That's because MeUndies use breathable, quick-dry, moisture-wicking, and anti-odor fabrics, keeping you cool and fresh all summer long. Honestly, for me though, I'm an all-season MeUndies wearer, hot, cold, rain, or leaves, it's what I'm sporting. Plus, I love that they use sustainably sourced materials and work with partners that actually care for their workers. And their problem-free philosophy means that if you're somehow not happy with your first pair, then it's on MeUndies. But don't worry, you will be. Y'all, summer is coming. Be prepared with MeUndies. Get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/super. That's MeUndies.com/super for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. Okay, but on that note, back to the abandoned banshee. We know precious little about the witch who actually banished them, and it was certainly not by smiling at them. Yeah. Stupid giggle. Here's Lockhart on the subject. And the witch who banished the abandoned banshee had a hairy chin. I mean, come on. Now, who could this possibly be? I think we're all thinking it. Let's just say it together. Professor Seamus's mom. Actually,
don't you dare talk about my mother like that.
Okay, we've entered the realm of a theory inside of a theory, and this one even surprised me. But during Seamus's turn against the boggart in Lupin's class, here's what happens. Seamus darted past Parvati. Crack! Where the mummy had been was a woman with floor-length black hair and a skeletal green-tinged face, a banshee. She opened her mouth wide and an unearthly sound filled the room, a long wailing shriek that made the hair on Harry's head stand on end. Okay, so Seamus's greatest fear is a banshee, which is interesting, but that's not even the only time he ever brings them up. Here he is a full year later when Harry opens the golden egg from the first task. What was that? Said Seamus Finnegan, staring at the egg as Harry slammed it shut again. Sounded like a banshee. Maybe you've got to get past one of those next. Plus, and I had to look this up, but Bandon is actually a town specifically in Ireland where Seamus is from. So Seamus had a bad experience with a banshee. His mom saved him, but then had her story stolen from Lockhart. Probably. New headcanon. And so from there, presumably Dumbledore knows Mrs. Finnegan since, her son attends the school and everything.
My dad's a muggle. Mom's a witch. Bit of a nasty shock for him when he found out.
So that left us with someone who defeated either a Yeti, troll, ghoul, vampire, or hag. And honestly, we only ever hear of anyone taking on 3 of those, and it's going to be the hag, vampire, and troll, which narrows it down quite a bit, and in fact, all the way, since it's all the same person. Quirrell.
Can't tell you how pleased I am to meet you.
What's kind of hilarious is that, similar to Lockhart, Quirrell had a certain thirst for recognition upon leaving Hogwarts and wanted the world, and I quote here, to sit up and take notice of him. Gotta stop hanging out with iguanas then, man.
Oh, yes.
That being said though, we do notice him a lot for that. Mostly because it's so hilarious. But what's even funnier is that, also similar to Lockhart, is that there's a certain skepticism about the apparent heroic deeds he'd accomplished before becoming a professor. First, we get this account from Hagrid. They say he met vampires in the Black Forest, and there was a nasty bit of trouble with a hag. And then here's Harry describing how Defense Against the Dark Arts, a class they were all looking forward to, is just kind of a joke. His turban, he had told them, had been given to him by an African prince as a thank you for getting rid of a troublesome zombie, but they weren't sure that they believed this story. Now, of course, part of the reason that he's all hush-hush about the turban is because Voldemort is living underneath there, but whether he met vampires or had trouble with a hag or got rid of a zombie, we do know that he traveled around looking to make a name for himself, hopefully by tracking down Voldemort and finishing him off, or at least learning from him. Kind of conflicting goals there. It's like, yes, I will defeat you, or become the apprentice, who can then become the master by defeating you, maybe? How about you just live in the back of my head instead? Good? All right. We also know, though, that despite his possible accomplishments with other beasts, he absolutely does have a gift with
Troll in the dungeon! Troll in the dungeon!
I'll draw to know. Now, according to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, trolls are originally from Scandinavia, but now exist in Britain, Ireland, and Northern Europe, and come in 3 different varieties: mountain, forest, and river. That's a river troll. Ron's really good at wizard's chess and identifying different kinds of trolls.
Why's the tone of surprise?
But the important bit here is that Hogwarts is on a cliff. It's basically surrounded by either a lake or forest, so how a mountain troll was even nearby is kind of odd, unless it perhaps was brought back with Quirrell from his travels to, say, from Norway, aka Scandinavia, where trolls come from. I mean, after all, he does supply Hagrid with one Norwegian Ridgeback dragon egg, does he not?
That's a Norwegian Ridgeback.
Sounds to me like he spent some time up around Norway becoming good at handling trolls, which he even tells Harry. Certainly, I have a special gift with trolls. You must have seen what I did to the one in the chamber back there. So, do you see what I'm getting at here? Because for a guy who has a genuine talent and wants recognition, it's odd that his experience with trolls doesn't come up in all the stories of what he's accomplished. It's almost as if he knows he's good with trolls, but doesn't remember ever dealing with them. Because his memory was wiped by someone who wants even more recognition.
Me?
Travels with Trolls is actually about Professor Quirrell, known acquaintance of Dumbledore, and it's about whatever adventures he had up in Norway dealing with trolls on his travels. I think what I love the most about this particular story is that, like, Lockhart and Quirrell actually have kind of similar stories. They're both defense against the dark arts teachers, and Quirrell, I feel like, perfectly fits that mold for someone who, like, might be more qualified than Lockhart, but absolutely has just zero flair whatsoever. Except for the iguana. That's pretty dope. But y'all, as always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future Harry Potter action from us. If you want to hear Jay and I just absolutely comb through the Harry Potter saga, basically like chapter by chapter, page by page, sentence by sentence, it is yielding so many brand new theories for us. You can check out our brand new podcast, Through the Gryffindor, where we have just launched into Prisoner of Azkaban Chapter 1. Be sure to check it out right over here or wherever pods are cast. Otherwise, until next time, bye!